The lineup for today is leading off and playing second base, Steve Sachs. Batting second and playing first base is Greg Brock. Batting in the third position and playing left field, Dusty Baker. Hitting fourth and playing third base, Pete Guerrero. Batting in the fifth spot and playing center field, Kenny Landreau. Batting sixth and playing right field, Mike Marshall. Batting seventh and playing shortstop, the veteran, the Dean, Billy Russell. Batting in the eighth spot and doing the catching, Jack Fimple. And the pitcher for today, the right-handed fireballer, Bobby Welsh. Thank you.
Here's the way the Phillies will line up on defense. Matthews remains in left field. They give up some defense with Gross in center field, replacing Maddox. And in right field is LeFay, but those two fellas are in there because of their bat. Mike Schmidt will be at third base. DeJesus, and he'll be a little more sure of himself with the artificial surface. He's a shortstop. Joe Morgan will be at second base. Pete Rose is at first base. Bo Diaz is the catcher, and Charlie Hudson is the pitcher.
The Philadelphia Phillies taking the field here at Veterans Stadium. And again, we point out two things. First of all, it is not a full house. And secondly, the delay of game. It will take place a couple of minutes from now. However, it was originally to start sometime after 3 p.m. But we had an unfortunate tragedy nearby the ballpark when an oil tanker truck turned over, as we explained at the start of the show. Charlie Hudson is a kid who is 0-2. In fact, he made his major league debut the end of May against the Dodgers, and the Dodgers beat him in Dodger Stadium 4-1. He had somewhat of a roller coaster year, even though he's 8-8. Give you an idea, his first 10 starts, he won 2 and lost 3. Then, the end of July through the first week in August, he was red hot. He won 5 straight. And then from August 13th to the end of the season, he won only 1 game in 11 starts. He went 1-5, so you put it all together, and you wind up 8-8. Probably his best game on the 20th of July, he had a no-hitter with 1 out in the 9th inning. And Houston's Craig Reynolds blooped a single to center. He finished with a 3-hitter, 10-3, and he took the win. And basically, he is a simple, orthodox pitcher, huh, Joe?
That he is. You're watching him throw his curveball, but his fastball is his best pitch. He throws a cut fastball. He has 2 or 3 variations, according to his pitching coach, Claude Osteen. And the cut fastball is just that he throws it a bit off center, and hopefully in this game we'll show you exactly what they mean when they talk about a cut fastball. He throws it very hard, and it'll be a pitch that'll eat you up if he gets it in the right spot. I think that cut fastball really started with Johnny Sane, and I think Mudcat Grant got the most publicity when he was winning because that's what he was throwing. This kid, what they talk about more than anything, though, I think, Vin, is his temperament. They say he'll have the butterflies, but they'll not affect his arm, and his coach says he can smile. He'll lose the game, and he'll feel badly, but he can leave it here and come back the next day. So here we go.
Well, 24-year-old Charlie Hudson will be pitching to Steve Sachs, Greg Brock, and Dusty Baker. A year ago, Hudson was in his home in Dallas watching the championship series on TV. In fact, he said, I didn't expect to reach the big leagues until 1984. And here he is going up against Sachs. Sachs in his sophomore year had a big year, and so far he has enjoyed a reasonably good championship series. 3 for 7 with the bat, although you remember in the first game, after a base hit, he was picked off at first base.
And he already said, if I get on, I'm going.
So Sachs opening it up. He had 281 during the regular year, and of course he had 56 stolen bases, and that's ball 1. Finding it very difficult to get into the stadium, so we are far from a sellout. Strike. 1-1. The count is Steve Sachs. And you can see the empty seats, although many of the tickets have been sold for those seats. It's extremely difficult to get here. One of the main arteries completely blocked until at least 10 p.m. tonight. High pop fly into shallow right center field. Coming in and calling all the way is LeFay. 1 away. Joe, it looks like, at least at the start of the game, we're going to have one of those shadow sunlight games.
I started to just bring that up. It's not so much the shadows as it is the reflection, too, Vin, because you can see the lattice work across the mound. That's going to be distracting, but when it gets beyond and everybody's in the shade, it will help some, but it's looking out in the center field, that reflection, that's what really makes it a problem.
You know, every now and then a manager has to go with a hunch. And Lasorda's hunch is that this youngster, Greg Brock, will do something rather dramatic. He is 0 for 5 in the league championship series. Remember, he had 20 home runs during the regular year with 66 runs batted in, and he fouls that back. And the count 0-1.
It's a high sky today, so these outfielders and infielders on the pop fly, they might have some problems because they don't have those little white clouds, those little angels that they talk about helping you out.
There's an idea of that sky. It's about as high as it can get. 0-1, the count to Greg Brock. Good fastball, lifted foul off third. Mike Schmidt fighting the sun, now goes into the shade, leans in. And did he come up with it or not? Yes, he did. He was fighting the fan for it. And the fan said, give it to me. Mike said, I fought too hard to get it. Now you can have it. Huh.
Here's another look at that play, and you can see Mike fighting the sun, looking to see exactly where he was. He knows he has to reach in. Now watch the fan try to make the catch. Mike with the glove makes it. And they're showing it on the big scoreboard out there in center field. Now he'll visit with him, and then he gives him the ball. The fan has a perfect right to that ball because it's in the stands. He did not reach onto the playing field. You would think with the home crowd he would help his player, but he wanted that souvenir and he did end up with it, but he does have a right to it.
Well, and the box seat is just beyond the Dodger dugout, so maybe it was somebody from far away like Delaware. With 2 out in the first inning, here's Dusty Baker. Baker 1 for 7 in the league championship series.
I'll tell you where it was an experience, Vin, was to go there as a Cardinal player in Ebbets Field and reach in there.
Yeah, you're lucky to come back with your hands.
Oh, your glove was gone.
1-1 to count to Baker. Ball 2, 2-1. Game 3 of the National League Championship Series between the Phillies and the Dodgers. Contrary to the writers, East and West meet, at least in baseball. High slicing fly ball to right. LeFay digging, still coming, and can't get it. The ball bouncing up into the seats for the ground rule double.
There's a great example of what the ball will do when it hits that artificial surface. Once he missed it, LeFay gives it a try. Now watch the bounce on this ball. I mean, it just went straight up and into the seats for the ground rule double. So you can see the infielders playing back, and outfielders have to be careful of the ball when it hits that surface.
And it probably deprived Dusty Baker of the additional base because with LeFay on his numbers, he figured to go to third on that ball, except it bounced into the stand. So now let's see. Pedro Guerrero 1 for 5. Remember the 2-run triple the other night. He's also been on base 3 times by walking twice and hit by a pitch. And he slices one high, twisting down the right field line and foul ground and back into the seats out of play. Pete Rose in pursuit. 0-1 to count.
Well, if you've been thinking about it, first base is open. Do you kind of widen that strike zone for him, make him chase the bad ball? Hudson came right in with it as if to say, hey, I got good enough stuff to get him.
And, of course, again, we point out as we did, Pedro has Landreau hitting back of him today and the other night, as in the first game when Carlton was pitching, he had the rookie Marshall. Guerrero does not walk very much. He had only 3 intentional walks in 1980 and 81. And, of course, now they really handle him with care. The last 2 years, he's had 28 intentional walks. And then, of course, there's that category, the intentional or the unintentional intentional walk, where they just won't give you a strike. 1-1. And he was a little bit late on that.
And it was also out of the strike zone. So Guerrero's looking to knock in that run. He knows how important it is to put the crooked numbers on the scoreboard first. And that was not a strike, but he wasn't about to be that particular.
1-2, the count of Pedro Guerrero. Dusty Baker with a ground rule double at second. 2 out in the first inning. No score. So pull up a chair and spend part of the afternoon with us. The Charlie Hudson strikes out Guerrero, leaving Dusty Baker base. And at the end of half an inning, the Dodgers no runs, 1 hit, a man left. And the Philadelphia Phillies coming up, Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt. Here's the Philadelphia Philly lineup. Joe Morgan leading off at second base, followed by his buddy Pete Rose at first base, and the big guy Mike Schmidt at third. Joe LaFay will be in the cleanup spot in right field, followed by Gary Matthews in left field. Greg Gross with his left-handed bat replacing Gary Maddox in center field. Bo Diaz will be the catcher, Ivan DeJesus the shortstop, and Charlie Hudson on the mound. The pitcher going head-to-head against that lineup is Bob Welch. He is 1-0 in the playoffs. His playoff victory came here in 1978. He went 4 1/3 innings, allowed only 2 hits, and beat the Phils at Veterans Stadium. He is 1-0 against Philadelphia this year, and boy, did he have to work for it. It was a 1-hit, 1-0 victory over Steve Carlton. His best game would be that game, the only hit by Von Hayes.
The defense is what you've been used to. Baker, Landreau, and Marshall in the outfield. It'll be Guerrero at third, Russell at short, Sachs the second baseman, Brox at first, Jack Fimple is behind the plate, and Bob Welch on the mound. And that sun has worked its way to where it's right in the big guy's eyes, and you can see the shadow is.
Mike remembers a first baseman who tried to learn the position in spring training, and look at him.
Here comes the ball right towards you. Joe doesn't really drive that ball. He hit it well, and Marshall, fighting this high sky, is really having some problems. And once he catches it, it's almost like I want to sit down and take an inventory here. That's not your classic way to catch it, but there is 1 out.
And, of course, the other night, he was fooled by a Morgan fly ball and had to wind up diving for it. Here's Pete Rose. Ball 1. Rose, in Game 2, had his 15-game hitting streak in the LCS snapped by Fernando and Niedencure. He's 1 for 7. He has a walk, and he had a stolen base. It was a classic steal. Those of us who saw it will never forget it. He stole without a play. So the wily Rose.
Joe Morgan was talking about maybe having a meeting before today's game with just the players to talk about how the Dodgers have been playing them the previous 2 games because they have changed their pitching and some of the defense that they used all year.
Here's a 2-1 pitch, and Rose grounds it to third. Guerrero stays with it and gets him. A tag by Brock, and you see Rose. Pete wasn't about to be tagged. He's playing for keeps. He was going to try and knock that ball out of Brock's hands.
Tell you, that's one reason why he gets booed, but he never gets booed in a white uniform. He doesn't give up. He never loses a game. He just runs out of time. Watch him hustle down there, and whoops, you get that glove there, and I'm going to knock it out of the way, and that's the way you play this game. You don't buy dance tickets when you go to first base. You want to be a base runner.
Well, here is Mike Schmidt. You remember the home run, of course, that Steve Carlton made stand up. He takes a strike. He is 3 for 7 in the series, the home run and 1 RBI. Interestingly enough, Mike Schmidt has been carrying thunder in that bat now for the last 10 years. He's averaged about 37 home runs a year. This is a favorite hitter's ballpark. That's right. They talk about Atlanta being a launching pad, but most of the hitters you talk to love this ballpark. 330 down the lines, 371 up the alleys, 408 to center. Great hitting background. And the ball flies out of here when the weather's warm. Fouled away.
And one other thing that ball players, the hitters, like, there's not a whole lot of foul territory. That ball usually ends up in the stands, which may mean 10, 15 extra swings. You see, and down the lines, forget it once it gets out to the, as you see the indentation. Look how close that is.
Yeah, you run out of room immediately.
Ball players love that because it's extra swings. It's when you get that airport feeling that it's bad.
0-2 to Mike Schmidt. 2 down. First inning. We are just warming up. First inning, no score. Bob Welch and Charlie Hudson. High fly ball. Here comes Marshall to fight the glare again. And he's staying with it.
He's put excitement back in the fly ball. I'll say
tell you what, he's done a great job considering he's really a first baseman. So the Phillies are out in order, and at the end of an inning, the Dodgers nothing and the Phillies nothing. Captain Don McDuff of the Goodyear Blimp America. McDuff, a native of Anson, Texas, a 10-year veteran, and one of only 20 blimp pilots in the world, giving us those bird's-eye view shots of Veterans Stadium. Down on the ground, Kenny Landreau, Mike Marshall, and Bill Russell. Landreau is 2 for 6 with an intentional walk. Hits it to right center. Coming up for it is Gross to make the catch. Good play by Greg. Greg Gross got a jump on it and stayed with it. The ball was just starting to sink. And the batter will be Mike Marshall. Marshall is 0 for 8. Struck out twice in the league championship series. And in 42 at-bats during the regular year, he struck out 19 times against the Phillies. Of course, he's that kind of a young hitter. He hit .284, had 17 home runs and 65 RBIs. In a hole 0-2. Tommy Lasorda in a most important game 3. He's from nearby Norristown. It's almost like coming home here. And down goes Mike.
You've got to like the way this young Hudson has walked out there and said, hey, you're going to have to beat me, because he's coming right at him. Proof being what he did to Guerrero after Baker had doubled and what he has just done to Marshall. Landreau hits the first pitch, and on 3 pitches he strikes out Marshall.
Well, I love the way he went after Guerrero. So here's Russell. Strike. Russell with a short stroke. He's the veteran of the ball club, and he is 3 for 6 with a stolen base. For Hudson, his most strikeouts in the game, 9 when he had a 3-hitter against Houston.
I'll grant you we have a microphone pretty close, but you can hear that ball pop from up here.
There's a one-hopper at Rose. He staggers but stays with it. So Charlie Hudson sets the Dodgers down 1-2-3, picking up his second strikeout along the way. He's retired the last 4 in a row since the fly ball double by Dusty Baker. And at the end of an inning and a half at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia, the Dodgers nothing and the Phils nothing. For the second inning, no score in the ball game. Just a moment ago, pitching coach Ron Perinoski and trainer Paul Padilla, the inventor of the Mr. Potato Head Award you've heard so much about. Perinoski didn't like the way Bob Welch was warming up. Welch had to leave starts on September the 19th and on the 24th because of a sore hip. He had no trouble in his most recent start on the 29th, and evidently Perry didn't like the way he was loosening up. He went out to talk to him.
And they tell me, Vin, that he's one of those pitchers who will not tell you of an injury, beforehand. It has to be a pretty serious thing, and it's all over right now.
And this has been a year of injury for him as he sets in to go head-to-head with Joe LaFay. LaFay had one pinch hitting appearance the other night and struck out. But Welch had a bad elbow in the spring, suffered a chip fracture in August when he was hit by New York's Walt Terrell, and then lately the bad hip. All 1 to LaFay. Who would believe it? But it has turned out that Joe LaFay and Sixto Lezcano would be hitting cleanup for the Phils in the League Championship Series. Joe, a very versatile ball player. He can play left field, right field. He can play third, and if you really need him, he'll also go behind the plate. And he has an exceptional throwing arm. He ranks right up there with Andre Dawson. 1-1 to Joe LaFay, then Gary Matthews and Greg Gross. High twisting foul off third. Guerrero coming over to the seats, and this one is way back in and out of play. 1-2.
When you watch that Welch pitch, you can see why he impresses you. He's a big guy to begin with, and all those big guys always give you that little extra. And then with his delivery, I can't help but think, I was reading some notes last night, Roger Angel, who could really put the words together, says that Welch throws with an explosive elegance.
Yes, it is elegant to watch.
It really is.
All right. And that's drilled with explosive elegance to deep center. Landreau one-hands it going away. Kenny still fighting that glare. The shades were down, but he had to use his glove to catch the ball, not for shade.
And this is one of the reasons that both Gross and LaFay are in the lineup, but Landreau able to haul this one down. He battled it all the way, and he wasn't sure even after he caught it. Keep in mind, it's not just a reflection, but there are no clouds up there. And ball players really need some help with those clouds, because when you run after a while, those little floater, those dark spots are all over the place, and sometimes you pick on a floater and that ball will go right over your head. It's a tough high sky.
Interesting chain of events as Gary Matthews steps in, ball one. Perinoski didn't like the way Welsh warmed up, and the first hitter takes Landreau 405 feet to haul it in. Matthews 2 for 8, a home run against Fernando, and 1 RBI. Sarge, as they call him, Gary Matthews. He never had less than 58 RBIs in his major league career, but this year he only had 50. One reason the Phils had some troubles. Looked like he might have been trying to go to right field, and the count 2-1. 2 balls, 1 strike to Gary Matthews. 1 out in the second inning, no score. That's in there. 2-2. So Welsh and Hudson in game 3. Neither manager saying much about game 4. They want to wait till this one's over.
They're both playing. I've got a secret.
Fastball just off the corner. Ball 3.
When you take a ball like that, it's not because you got a great eye or you're a great hitter. It just happened to be a ball.
3-2 to Gary Matthews. Ball 4. So the Phils get their first base runner. A walk to Matthews.
A couple of elements. We talked about the high sky. What about the artificial surface? We asked Bill Russell.
Play a little deeper, step or two deeper, simply because it's going to be, long the sun's out, the ball is going to get to me a lot quicker because the AstroTurf is holding the heat, and consequently, again, the ball is going to be bouncier because of that heat holding into the AstroTurf.
Gary Matthews at first with 1 out in the bottom of the second inning, no score. Indication of what kind of weather we have here in October in Philadelphia when Bill Russell is talking about the heat in the AstroTurf. It is a magnificent day. Here is Greg Gross, grounded out and walked in 2 pinch hit appearances. When he walked, remember, he inherited a 2-0 count. And boy, when you hit 300 and they give you a 2-0 count, you are really playing with house money. Gross batted .302 during the regular year. Matthews at first with 13 stolen bases. So we'll see if they put a play on.
Dodgers really do not expect him to pull that ball. In fact, Dusty Baker in left field is playing him as if he were a right-handed pull hitter.
And Landreau is in left center. So if Gross ever hits a ball, let's say, between Steve Sachs and second base, if it hits the rug, it'll scurry to the wall. 1 ball and no strikes. Walks for Bob Welch in a game this year, 5. He did that 4 times. And his most strikeouts, 10. 2-0.
That's one of the things that Ron Perinoski concerns himself with is Bob Welch throwing over the first base as much as he does. Sometimes Ron says he throws over so much he loses concentration on the batter because he's bearing down so much on that base runner. There's a fine line there for the young pitcher.
Jack Bimble trying to set a target for him. And he missed again. Welch now is 3-0. They are moving around restlessly in the Dodger dugout and in the bullpen. I don't think they like what they see. And I just read Lasorda's lips. And the last part of it was get him out of here. There was also an expletive in there that I won't use. 3-0. And there's ball 4. Welsh is too long for the game. Alejandro Pena gets up in the Dodger bullpen. There is Pena, who might or might not have been the starting pitcher. That first one wasn't. Lasorda was hollering something about that first one wasn't.
He was talking about the visits to the mound, because if you go out there twice in the same inning, he's gone. He wanted to make sure that that's the first visit that Perinoski is making, because what they're going to do, I'm sure, is try to buy some time. And now McSherry is going out to make sure that Padilla and Welsh are talking about it as far as a possibility of an injury. The 2 trips out there and you're gone, and that's why Lasorda was making sure, and now Peranowski goes out there and they're concerned about Welsh, and it looks like he is going to be gone.
Yeah, he evidently that hip must be bothering him, and he's gone. When I saw Lasorda, I could read his lips saying, "Get him the dash out of there." And there he goes. After looking at Lasorda all these years, I read him pretty well.
Yes, you do. He's pretty upset, Vin. I just wonder if it is an injury, though.
And Alejandro Pena will be called in. Now, how many pitches about did Welsh make? We can check. In other words, I'm thinking about him coming back tomorrow, but he is hot. He's gone. He's not staying around for any talk.
He made 13 in the first inning. We'll count the ones in the second inning here. He got to come back if he wins.
Okay, Pena says he's ready, and we're going to find out if he really is. Gary Matthews at second. Greg Brogue is first. 1 out in the second inning. Bo Diaz 0 for 6 in the series coming up.
And if you were the hitter, you'd say, well, I'm going to look for a fastball right here. Because all this, he wants to get ahead of me with all that's going on. He'll just want to throw a strike. Let's see.
So the Phillies apparently getting a monumental break when Welsh has to come out with a sore hip. 1-1. 1-0. First and second. Matthews, who walked, is at second. Gross, who walked, is at first. And Bo Diaz, who is a pretty good hit-and-run man, among other things. And he has 15 home runs, 64 RBI. 1 out in the inning. Fouled away. 1-1. Diaz, they tell us, Joe, really thrives on fastballs, as I guess do most hitters, right?
That's what you look for. You know, they say he's a good breaking ball hitter. I think they're like Vikings and Shepherds. I hear about them. I never see them.
1-1. The count to Bo Diaz. Breaking ball gets away from Pimple, and the runners move up 90 feet. So the Phillies have Gary Matthews at third, Greg Gross at second, and the count 2-1. And on the message board it says, "Gracias, amigos."
Young Pimple, I just wonder if it's the bad hand, because he just did not move on that pitch. He did not shift at all. He tried to backhand the ball, and it cost him. You got those men on base. You got to get that body in front of you, because as a young catcher, they tell you, get your body in front of it. If you can catch the ball with your body in front of it, you're a great catcher. You start reaching out like he did, like he's got a pair of pliers in his hand, you're going to get burned.
Well, it's a wild pitch. As you said, Pimple might have at least blocked it. And the count now 2-1 to Bo Diaz. The infield is back, except at the corners. And that's going to go all the way to the backstop. It caroms to Pimple, but he can't hold on to it, and Matthews scores. Going to third is Gross. And it is 1-0 Philadelphia as Christmas comes early to the city of brotherly love.
I don't think he was crossed up. He just didn't see it. He threw it right by him. He was looking fastball, and he just went off his glove. They call it a pass ball, and rightly so, because he didn't move. As you can see on the replay, his body didn't move either way. He was looking fastball, and he just threw it right by him.
So 2 walks, a change of pitcher, a wild pitch, and a pass ball. It is 1-0 in favor of Philadelphia. And Bo Diaz up there with the count 3-1. And the infield has to come up now with a runner at third. Ground ball foul just over the head of Greg Gross and down the line. 3-2. And this crowd dying to make noise, and they're doing just that.
And here's where that artificial surface comes into play. You play your infield in, and your chances of getting one through there are really increased.
3-2 to Diaz with 1 out. Ball 4.
I got to tell you that right now, Lasorda's stomach, there's a hockey game going on in there.
3 walks, a wild pitch, a fast ball for a run. He has lost, in his own words, his best pitcher. And it is 1-0 Philadelphia in the second inning with 1 out. And Ivan De Jesus coming up. De Jesus 1 for 5 in the series, but he struck out 3 of those 5 at-bats. Ground ball to Guerrero, waits for the hop, then throws to first as the second run scores. I wonder, didn't you think he might have had a play at the plate?
He did have a play at the plate. And what he did was look and decide to go to first base. He was not going to get the double play, and I don't know why he gift-wrapped the run for him. Now watch the play. He gets that ball in good shape. He's got him by 20 feet right there.
Sure.
If he throws a balloon, he's going to get him, but he decides, I'm going to go to first base, and they're not scoring that many runs. It's almost like they're playing with suction cups or off speed, like the game is 75 or 78, and they're playing 33 in the third.
The batter now is Charlie Hudson. A strike. I think, among other things, Guerrero was victimized by the fear of the artificial surface. He didn't charge that ball. If it was grass, I think it would have charged and instinctively thrown to the plate. But he played it like it was the head of a rattlesnake. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. So the Phillies have gotten 3 walks, a pass ball, a wild pitch, and a ground out for 2 runs. That's a monumental rally in this series.
Boy, you talk about being marked down to 398. They really wholesaled him.
So Diaz at second base, and Hudson trying to pick him up, and fouls it back out of play. 1-2 to Charlie Hudson. Philadelphia leading 2-0 in the second inning. And Bob Welch leaving because of a flare-up of the bursitis in his left hip. Hudson had 5 hits, but 3 RBIs during the regular year. Waves at it. So the Phillies don't do any hitting, but the Dodgers give them 2. And at the end of 2, Philadelphia 2 and the Dodgers nothing. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Here's the play. DeJesus hits the ball to Guerrero. Now Guerrero waits for it from the artificial surface, but it looks like he's going to get grossed by 30 feet, but he decides to go to first base. I just wondered. Looked like he might have a little bit of trouble getting out of the glove, but I still think he could have gotten him by 20 feet.
It's interesting. You and I are wondering, why did he go? And I'm speculating on the AstroTurf and the fact that he was afraid of the bounce. Steve Dans of NBC said, you know, maybe he thought there were 2 outs. And when you realize there was such a lengthy pause, and he went into the dugout. He didn't even stand out on the field while Pena was warming up. Somehow, inexplicably, perhaps Guerrero thought there were 2 out. Maybe.
Well, I hope he doesn't tell Lasorda that.
No, he won't. In English or Spanish, he'll keep that quiet. Paul Owens has himself a 2-0 lead, without really doing very much about it. A couple of walks, a wild pitch, a fast ball, and a ground ball. So the Phillies leading, and now it's Jack Pimple, followed by Pena, and then Sachs. Pimple was born about 8 miles from the city of Philadelphia in Darby, Pennsylvania. Fouled away. He didn't play in Game 1. He hit the ball very hard in Game 2. He was robbed of a hit by Mike Schmidt, robbed of a hit on a leaping catch by Joe Morgan, and managed to get a base hit, go 1 for 4 and an RBI. He really was raised in Sacramento. We ought to talk about a 1 in a million. Jack Pimple and Dodger catcher Mike Scioscia were both born in the same hospital in Darby, Pennsylvania. I mean, that's a Guinness Book of Records. Pennsylvania born or no, down you go.
I asked Claude Osteen, the pitching coach, about this cut finger fastball or this cut fastball.
Well, yes, he does, Joe, and he holds the ball off center a little bit and gets on top of the ball. The hand has to be on top of the ball, and the ball literally comes out in an off-centered position and has very close velocity to the fastball. And by turning maybe more or less, he can get a variation of breaks on that cut fastball, and it's very quick, and the break is at the end of the pitch, which is what the pitcher wants.
That's Alejandro Pena hacking away up there 0-2. Pena had a half a dozen hits during the regular year. One of them was a home run in St. Louis. He is a free swinger. He holds the bat down at the knob and just goes for broke. 1-2.
It's a Joe Horner school of hitting.
Yeah.
Hope the ball is where the bat is.
Well, he's got his 1 HR. 0-2. And he promptly bangs it to center for a base hit. And, of course, for Hudson, that's the ultimate insult, not only to give up a base hit to the opposing pitcher, but 0-2. He might have been a little careless. He has struck out 3. So Pena singles, and that'll bring up Steve Sachs, who flied to right in the first inning. Phillies 2, Dodgers nothing, top of the third from the vet, Veterans Stadium, Philadelphia. Sachs 0 for 1 with the fly ball. Pena disdaining the windbreaker. So on the 7th of October, magnificent weather in Philadelphia. Fly ball, and that's a graveyard in center field for people like Sachs. So Gross puts it away. In his rookie year, Tommy Lasorda and Steve Sachs would pay each other money. Every time Sachs hit a ball in the air, he had to pay Lasorda. And then when he hit a ground ball, Lasorda would give it back to him. He was trying to teach him to beat that ball down on the rug. And for a fellow without power in a leadoff role to hit fly balls when you're playing on artificial surface, that is a crime. So 2 down, and here is Greg Brock, who fouled out in the first inning. Lasorda was doing some agonizing whether to play Rick Monday or Greg Brock the other day. He chose Brock. He again elected Brock today. He still has a hunch that Brock's going to do something big for him. 4-1.
You usually would not associate the word patience with Lasorda, but in the case of Brock and Marshall, he has shown great patience.
Yeah, I know. Rick Monday, the veteran who, of course, had the key home run in the LCS 2 years ago against Montreal and Steve Rogers to get the Dodgers into the World Series. And there's a drive to right. LaFay is right there. No runs, 1 hit, a single by Alejandro Pena, and 1 man left. The Dodgers have left 2 at the end of 2.5 innings. The Phillies 2, the Dodgers nothing, with Messrs. Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt coming up. Blue Sky leading the Dodgers 2-0 as we go to the bottom of the third inning. Joe Morgan followed by Pete Rose and then Mike Schmidt. They weren't with us in the second inning. Bob Wells was pitching before he even began the inning. The Dodgers were distressed over the way he was warming up. They allowed him to pitch, and Joe LaFay sent Kenny Landreau to the center field fence almost 408 feet away. That was an indication that something was wrong when he then walked Matthews and Gross. And the Dodgers jerked him immediately, and we had a report that his left hip had flared up on him. Pena came in and warmed up, and he wasn't ready, nor was his catcher Jack Pimple, because Pena wild pitched and then had a pass ball for 1 run. DeJesus hit a ground ball to Guerrero, inexplicably threw to first instead of going to the plate, and with all of it, the Phillies picked up 2 gift runs. So now in the third, it's Morgan, Rose, and Schmidt against Alejandro Pena. Morgan flied to right in the first inning. As you can see, he's drawn the collar thus far. High foul off to the left and way out of play in the seats. 1-1. One strike to Joe Morgan. This game was delayed because of a tragedy on the Schuylkill Expressway. An oil tanker truck turned over. 2 reportedly dead. And it slowed down and prevented, apparently, a lot of people from ever getting to the ballpark. It happened at 11:30 this morning, Philadelphia time. Joe did a good job of staying alive. He was fooled by that pitch, and somehow he fought it off.
That's exactly what he did. He fought it off. He didn't have that good Morgan swing. It was a breaking ball and took a little bit off of it, and you could just see him just hoping he could get a piece of it and hit it foul so he could stay alive. Might point out that there's a white line that the infielders use to set their positions, and Sachs right now is beyond it. And usually with the right-handed batter, Russell gets beyond that white line.
The 1-2 pitch to Joe Morgan. High, ball 2, 2-2. Joe Morgan, we were talking about his credentials. Well, my gosh. Rookie of the Year in 65, MVP in 75 and 6. 9 times an All-Star, 5 Gold Gloves. Truly a remarkable player. 3-2 to Little Joe.
In the old days when we used to wear buttons on the shirts, they used to call Morgan a guy with a 2-button strike zone. That's about all he had.
You look back at Houston when they had Joe Morgan and Jimmy Wynn, and you talk about dynamite coming in small packages. And that's fouled back upstairs out of play. So it's still 3-2. Joe is 5 feet 7 inches tall, but to the pitchers in the league, he's a lot bigger than that. On deck, Pete Rose. 2-0 Philadelphia, bottom of the 3rd. Nobody out. Line drive, base hit into right field. Morgan making a turn, but holding. So that's the first Philadelphia hit. And it will bring up Pete Rose.
The ball was well hit. Brock at first base gives it a leap. Away he could get it. And Morgan is on, and Rose has a gap to shoot through.
Morgan trying to induce an error, but Mike Marshall played the ball calmly and then threw a strike into second. Little Joe making a big turn at first, trying to shake up the rookie right fielder. And Pete Rose climbs in. Grounded to third in the first inning. Pena is very quick coming over there, but he is coming over against the most successful base stealer in National League history. His percentage is 81% success. The best in the American League, Willie Wilson. So this is a pretty good fight here, Joe.
He's getting a good lead, too. He's got that right foot is on the artificial surface, as you can see.
Boy, that was close. Oh, you cut meat that thin, you'll starve to death.
He's trying to take the spring out of his legs, but you see that Joe is just waiting for the first move. And the first move being towards first base, and back he goes.
The other way to do it, of course, if he comes back feet first, is good hard tags on the thighs. Another first baseman's trick. Most base runners today seem to go back with a hand to cut down any tagging area. Pena pitch, the only time he moves quickly is on his move to first. Everything else is a walk in the park to him. 2-0 Philadelphia, bottom of the 3rd.
Also notice that Morgan only has the sliding glove on the right hand because he keeps diving in and tagging the base with the right hand.
Little Joe stolen 18 out of 20 this year. At 40 years old, he's still a terror. Not going. Strike on the corner. 0-1 to Pete Rose. Well, let's see. You're leading 2-0, and you have Pete Rose at the plate. Do you have him bunting with Mike Schmidt coming up, or is that just a decoy?
Decoy.
Morgan at first. Rose sacrificed very few times this year. Just once.
You remember in the 75 World Series, the big argument with all that hoopla, and Sparky started it about Tiant and his balk move. And the very first chance that Morgan got on, Tiant picked him off, and we had the big balk controversy. Joe can read the pitches well.
0-1. And there's the bunt in the air, foul, and drops untouched. So they had Rose bunting, and the count now 0-2.
Tell you, Morgan on a 2-run lead, and Pete doesn't strike out that much. To me, he'd be a very effective hitter with the infield broken up, moving around, but they want to add that extra run.
Well, you can understand they've only had 1 run in each game, and it took a home run to get that. So runs have been at a premium.
Well, you'd lose Schmidt, that's for sure, but you'd have LaFay up there with men on first and second.
0-2 the count.
When you look at Morgan getting that lead, take a good look at those eyes. We've given you a couple shots of them. Once he zeroes in on Pena, he doesn't budge from that view. Right there.
1 ball and 2 strikes to Pete Rose. Morgan at first, nobody out. You know, an interesting theory, and I remember Mr. Branch Rickey talking about it. You cannot tag a runner at first if your tag goes into foul ground. In other words, if Brock makes a sweeping tag and the glove goes into foul territory, you can never tag it. Never. The same for a throw from the catcher. If you start your tag in foul ground, forget it.
Is right where he's throwing it, nice and low on the bag.
Down in the hole, base hit into right field, and Morgan will go to third, and Philadelphia in business.
There's the reason, Ben, that I would not have bunted, although I'm certainly not managing it on this artificial surface. It doesn't take a hard hit ball to get through there. And Pete did not sting that ball, but there was a big gap because Brock has to hold Morgan on. And Morgan, I mean, it's, what 3 hops before it gets to him. Morgan sees it all the way, and once it gets by him, he's headed for third.
So Alejandro Pena, who has not been effective at all in his last several starts, has given up a walk, wild pitched, and passed ball to run, and now gives up back-to-back singles with nobody out in the third inning. The Phillies trying to tear it wide open. And Mike Schmidt is the batter with the left hand hitting Joe LaFay on deck, and right-hander Joe Beckwith is throwing in the Dodger bullpen. But make no mistake about it, when Welsh left in the second inning, the Dodgers were really hurting. 4-1. To right in the first inning. 0 for 1 today. Dodger infield is back. The outfield almost straight away. Landro slightly off the mark towards left center, but not much. And Marshall is over a little more towards right center. Good off-speed breaking ball.
It's obviously a very crucial time at bat for Pena because the Dodgers have to be on their heels after watching the Phillies wholesale those 2 runs in the second inning, and Mike Schmidt has a chance here to light the fuse and just blow them right out of the ballpark.
So Schmidt up there with the count 1-1. Morgan down the line from third. Rose held on by Brock at first. Nobody out. Fly ball into very shallow center. Landro coming up on the dead run, and the runners are not going to go anywhere. Not on a pop fly with the center fielder charging. And they made him throw, and Landro actually made a poor throw. He threw it on the fly over Brock's head, and there was really no need to do that. He almost threw it away.
Usually a play like that, you just run it in, but
sure.
Morgan gave him a false start, and he kind of lobbed it. When he did, he threw it over Brock's head, but the Fimple was right there.
So with 1 out in the third inning, the batter will be Joe LaFay. Now remember, it was while warming up before the second inning started that the Dodgers showed concern about Welch, and then LaFay sent Kenny Landro 400 feet or more for his long fly ball. If he does it again, he picks up an RBI. So Joe LaFay hitting cleanup. And boy, look at the difference versus left-handers and right-handers. LaFay looking at Dave Briscoe for the moment. 1 out. Fastball missed. Ball 1. After LaFay, the right hand hitting Matthews. Rose and Morgan out on the lines at first and third. Joe Morgan at third, as we told you, the greatest base stealer percentage-wise in National League history. You might wonder, has anybody ever stolen home in a league championship game? Yep, in 1972, and the player was, of all people, Reggie Jackson. It was part of a double steal. 2-0. The count to Joe LeFay. Fastball whacked to left field. Baker going back on the track, makes the catch. Tagging is Morgan, and scurrying back to first is Rose. 3-0 Philadelphia. RBI LeFay.
Tell you something, the Phillies couldn't work out here yesterday because they painted new lines and they painted the fence. These Dodger outfielders are going to come up with green backs the way these Phillies have been hitting the Dodger pitching this early in the game. Ball was well hit as we take another look, and there's Dusty right up against the warning track, and boom, there he goes. Hits the wall. Landro did it earlier.
So a couple of singles, a pop fly, and then the long fly ball for the run. And here's Gary Matthews, walked in the second inning. Right. Matthews walked, Gross walked, and they took Welch out because of the bad hip. And then Pena wild pitch Matthews to third, and Pimple's pass ball allowed him to score. It's 3-0 Philadelphia, bottom of the third, 2 out. Fastball in on the hands. What a noise that made. Wow.
I think that hit our microphone right where it is.
Sound like you were cleaning out your closet. 0-2.
Fibber McGee's closet.
Yeah, right. 0-2 to Gary Matthews. Rose a short lead at first, held on by Brock. But remember, he stole a base. And I mean, he stole it without a throw. Dodgers in the fourth inning, if you're not keeping score, will have Dusty Baker, Pedro Guerrero, and Kenny Landro. He tried to steal it on Pena, but this time the Dodgers were ready. So Pete Rose is thrown out as Russell visits with Harvey, taking another look.
It's kind of a delayed steal. You see the reaction by Fimple. He just broke a bit too soon because Fimple was ready to throw it back to the pitcher, but his good arm made up for that little bit of a delay.
1 run, 2 hits, nobody left. 3-0 Philadelphia, into 3. We're going to the fourth inning at Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia. And the replica of the Liberty Bell is very much intact atop the upper deck in dead center field. It'll be Dusty Baker, Pedro Guerrero, and Kenny Landro, and the Dodgers are not very much intact. They are losing 3-0, and they are without 15-game winner Bob Welch, who had to leave with a bad hip. Baker double to right. Fly ball inside the right field line that kangarooed up in the seats for the ground rule double.
And young Hudson has only made 31 pitches to this point.
Boy, what a story. Charlie Hudson a year ago in Class A ball, trying to give the Philadelphia Phillies an edge 2-1 in this rubber. Dusty 1 for 1. For about the last week, including these 2 games, Baker's hitting about 440. He's been bothered with a severely pulled groin muscle and bad knees. He had knee surgery last year. In there. 2-1. Bo Diaz behind the plate. Rose, Morgan, DeJesus, and Schmidt. And Matthews, Gross, and LeFay. Back of Charlie Hudson. 2-1. Ball 3.
Isn't it something, these young pitchers? What a job that young Bodiger did last night for Baltimore. 14 strikeouts. And I mean, say what you want, he was really spotting that ball. And you can take your radar guns and you know what you can do with them when you spot them like that.
Now back. I love Bodiger's quote after the game. He said, "Did I have 14 strikeouts? No wonder my arm was tired." He pitched a dandy. 3-2 to Bate. Guerrero, Landro here in the fourth inning. Phillies 3 runs, 2 hits. Dodgers no runs, 2 hits. The base on balls. so important today. There's a line drive in a left center, and that will fall for the hit. Matthews making careful it will not kangaroo over his head. And the batter will be Pedro Guerrero. So Guerrero already figuring prominently in the game. He came up with Baker in scoring position and 2 out in the first inning. And Charlie Hudson went right after him and struck him out. And then it was Guerrero, instead of throwing home to get a cinch out of Gross, who threw to first, allowing Philadelphia's second run to score. So he hasn't done anything, and yet again he has. Right. He had a big year against the Phils with 11 RBIs. She's had a big year, period. He has just one hit in the championship series. That was that Flair double to, actually was a triple when it got by Lescano. A 2-run. He didn't hit it hard. 1 ball and 1 strike. Charlie Hudson out of Ennis, Texas. And Dusty Baker held on by Pete Rose.
You can see what that 3-run lead does, boy. It makes you play station to station. Get the first on a hit, get the second, get the third. Can't break it open.
1 ball, 1 strike. Check swing foul, and the count 1-2. You know what I would imagine has to be very tough in the dugout? The human reaction in the second inning. First losing Welsh, then the walks and the wild pitch and the pass ball, and then the mistake at third. I'm sure you have to fight that human reaction. Uh-oh, it's not our day.
Oh, do have to fight it. And you better have somebody that's a little bit of a cheerleader that you believe in, that does something in there.
1-2, the count to Guerrero. Of course, I guess the best cheerleader is somebody to come up and get you back in the ball game with a swing.
You got it.
Just the start of the 4th inning. The Phillies leading 3-0. Back at Charlie Hudson. 1-2. Off speed and a high fly ball to left field. Matthews will make the catch, however. Guerrero hit under it. He just hit under a high off-speed pitch, and he thought he hit it out. He just got under it. So Guerrero walking back, disappointed and in disgust.
Joe Morgan did not throw the ball to Morgan. He's to Hudson. He's out there telling him something, and I'm sure that one of the things he's telling him is, hey, those runs don't come that easy, and if you're going to get beat, don't you be getting beat on that big lollipop, that balloon you just threw. You get beat on some good stuff.
Boy, that's what it was. It was a lollipop. And, of course, that's probably maddening if you're the hitter. I mean, you got one that looked like a basketball, and you pop it out.
Hey, that's the kind that you call room service for.
Here's Landreau. Ball 1. Landreau lined out to center in the second inning. Kenny 0 for 1. He hit it at Greg Rose. He has 17 home runs, a career high this year. All 17 were against right-handers. Fouled away. 1 ball, 1 strike, and 1 out. We're in the 4th inning. Philadelphia 3 and Los Angeles nothing. Baker, who singled, he's 2 for 2 at first, and Hudson eyeballing him over his left shoulder. And that's on the hands of foul, and Mike Schmidt trying to run it down. He's there. A bad pitch to Guerrero and got away with it, and he made a very good pitch on Landreau as he jammed him, and the batter is Mike Marshall. Marshall struck out in the second inning, 0 for 9, and Lasorda has been trying to not motivate but to loosen up Brock and Marshall. He feels that they are tighter than drums, and he keeps pointing out, hey, look at Rose and Morgan, they're not doing anything. But the kids are evidently doing what kids do, trying too hard. Fouled away.
He got him on 3 pitches the last time. The first one was a fastball. This was a fastball, and he went for it. I mean, he's up there. He's anxious to hit. It's pretty obvious. Talking to Rick Monday, that's one of the things he said about Brock. He said he's got to quit fighting himself. He's got to enjoy it a little bit more. But that's very difficult.
Hey. Strike one pitch. Off speed and a high fly ball to left field. Back goes Matthews, away back. It's gone. And he got burned on the off-speed pitch.
I'm watching Morgan, and Morgan at second base got his hands on his hips. I guarantee you that's what he said, and now he's got himself a one-run ball game, and that's one of the things that you talk about. Here comes Joe. He wants to talk to him again. There's your cheerleader right there.
Yep.
The air was out of the balloon, and they just blew it back up for him.
Interestingly, the Dodgers have led the National League in home run. Look at Morgan saying, I thought I told you to take that change up and lose it.
I don't think he told him to lose it. I think he told him where to put it.
Here it is.
And he really hit it. There's no doubt about this one, and look at the difference in that bullpen. Mark Cressy, Niedenfuhr, and the ball comes back.
Oral Hershiser, the rookie relief pitcher, winds up fielding it in the Dodger bullpen. And so with one swing, the Dodgers are back in the game. You know, they've led the National League in home runs 6 of the last 7 years, led this year. You always think of their pitching. High chopper to Little Joe, and he's going to have to hurry, and he got him. Good play. For the Dodgers in the 4th inning, Charlie Hudson got away with a change up to Guerrero, but he got burned on a change to Marshall. And at the end of 3.5 innings, Philadelphia 3 and the Dodgers 2. There's Center City, the heart of Philadelphia, and the famous Ben Franklin Bridge. And there is suddenly a bridge in the gap here in the 4th inning, where it had been 3-0 Philadelphia. It's now 3-2. Gary Matthews, Greg Gross, and Bo Diaz. And Joe, I got to ask you something. In between pitches, is Pena working on Matthews? 4-1. It's enough for a kid to make a mistake and get away with it, and then to be reminded by Joe Morgan. But how about Bo Diaz calling for the pitch?
Well, I have to assume that Hudson did it on his own. I'm not going to blame the catcher, but I do want to go one step farther with that.
Ball 2.
I'm surprised that Diaz didn't go out himself after Guerrero and said, hey, if you're going to throw that thing, you bounce it up there. Don't be throwing it up in his eyes. And until you can ask the question, did he call it? Did he change up on his own? He's got the ball, so you have to put some of the blame on him, but you got to hang some of the donkey on Diaz, too.
Being consoled, sitting just to the right of him, is John Denny in the Philadelphia dugout. There's John, 19-game winner during the year, might be the Cy Young winner. 2-0, the count to Gary Matthews. And ball 3, so Pena on the wild side. He has already walked 1, given up a wild pitch, and 2 hits, and a run. 3-0 to Gary Matthews. Fastball down the pipe, 3-1. Phillies 3 runs, 2 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits, and we're in the 4th inning. Fastball, and that's hammered to left center. Baker going back and watching, it's gone.
Just a home run, and when Gary hit it, he knew it. He's going to watch it, and he's going to make that lovely trip when he knows it's out of the ballpark. The reason I say it's more than a home run, because with the home run by Marshall, the Dodgers had come back. Some of the air is back in the balloon, and this is when you want your pitcher to come out there and really slam the door and say, okay, we're back in this game. But Matthews says, oh, no, and he comes back with that boomer, and the momentum is on the first base side again.
Here's Greg Gross for a strike, and, of course, for Gary Matthews, that's his 2nd home run in League Championship Series. He hit one the other night against Valenzuela. Rick Honeycutt standing up in the Dodger bullpen. Pena is due to bat 2nd when the Dodgers hit in the 5th, and he has not been impressive at all. And Paul Owen has seen his club jump out to a 3-0 lead. The Dodgers close to 3-2, and now Matthews open it up again to 4-2. So Gross on the off-speed pitch, foul tips it. Pimple holds onto it, and he strikes out.
I think one of the new terms in sports is the unanswered points or the unanswered touchdowns. But I think in baseball, it goes beyond just unanswering, because when you come back like the Dodgers did, you're looking for your pitcher to really write the other club a message, and then Matthews says, no way, I'm going to answer you with this, and boom, there it is.
Yeah, key blow indeed. And now in the bullpen, Pat Zachary begins to loosen up. So Pat Zachary, the skinny right-hander who looks like he came here on a raft, he is really something. 1 ball and no strikes. Ball 2. So Bo Diaz and Lasorda dying in the dugout. Four to 2 filled. Bottom of the 4th. Almost got him with that pitch. So Pena is wild, and he's behind 3-0, and they might let Diaz swing. 15 home runs during the regular year, and a wild pitcher perhaps trying to groove one.
I tell you, if you're Fimple, you better call this pitch, assuming that he's going to swing.
3-0. Yep. Fouled it back. 3-1 to count to Bo Diaz. By the way, during the regular year, Matthews had 10 home runs. 10. And he has hit 2 and a couple of ticks of the clock. 3-1 to count to Diaz with DeJesus on deck. Fastball.
Part of that confusion with this Phillies club when Mike Schmidt spoke out was Gary Matthews, and Mike was very blunt about it. He said Matthews wants to play every day. Maddox wants to play every day. Gross and LeFay, they're part-time players, and they're happy in that role, and they're playing every day. So we don't know what's going on. They got to straighten out, and here they are.
Here they are indeed, leading 4-2 in the 4th inning. Fastball grounded to third. Guerrero with a long throw to Brock. 2 down. The batter will be the shortstop, Ivan DeJesus, who grounded to third in the 2nd inning. Did you read the story about that man impersonating DeJesus in Hawaii? That's the wackiest thing I ever heard.
I got to tell you, that guy's got more guts than anybody. He said that he had somebody over here using his name and his uniform during the baseball season. But you got to be some kind of a coconut to believe that guy.
What about his girlfriend? That's DeJesus' strike. She took him to the airport every day. He was going to fly somewhere to play for the Phillies, but he never took off. And she did that for a whole season? I mean, come on. 0-1 to count to DeJesus. And a fly ball to left. Baker is there. And lost it. And totally lost the ball. He was there all right. 30 feet short.
He never did move on that ball. It just hit, and he watched it, just like you and I.
So there's a 1981 Gold Glove winner.
He doesn't know where it is. Now he sees it bounce, and unfortunately for him, one bounce isn't out.
So DeJesus at first, 2 down, and Charlie Hudson the batter. And of course, it's the old story. If nothing else, that gets the pitcher out of the way. There goes a wild pitch into the Philadelphia dugout. One base on the rubber.
He didn't see it, Ben. I'm telling you, he didn't see it. And he is really uptight about it, and it just goes right off his glove and shin guards. Let's see from the replay what happens. It would hit the dirt. They're going to give him a wild pitch, but he really got down there late. I don't think he saw it.
Pena is charged with 2 wild pitches and the fastball against Pimple. Pena has given up 2 of the 4 runs. And they count 2-0 to Charlie Hudson.
Did you do that thing already about this game may not be rebroadcast?
You know, I don't remember. Did I do that already? Yes, I did.
Because I was going to give them permission if they wanted
to have it. Huh? That's a strike. By the way, if you're wondering, the National League for most wild pitches in a league championship, 2 in a game, and the people who did it, Juan Marichal, a Hall of Famer, Sam Tuck Dominican, Joaquin Andujar last year, and now Alejandro Pena, a Latin American smack to the wild pitch. 2-2 to Charlie Hudson, with DeJesus at second. 4-2 Philadelphia in the 4th inning.
just me, but even with men on now, they're all catching one hand, catching the ball down and reaching. And it's not just Fimple, it's everybody. I watched the great Carlton Fisk last night, and I'm saying I don't remember him doing it that much.
Really? Got him. Fimple is trying to protect that fractured hand, at least with the pitcher up there. However, 1 run, 2 hits. DeJesus left at second base at the end of 4-2 Philadelphia. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. The Philadelphia skyline with a magnificent blue backdrop. Boy, what a day. You could set this one in your ring. Temperatures in the 70s and you can see forever. And all the way down into Veterans Stadium, and here we are. Joe, at least one thing about this ball game, it's a departure from the overpowering pitching we had seen in the first 2 games.
It is. I mean, everything is an adventure. Fly balls, wild pitches, and it makes for exciting baseball. I like this. I love the low-scoring games, but this is more exciting.
Yeah, and of course, a guy like Pena in 170-some-odd regular season innings, only 2 wild pitches. He's aimed that much in the last 2 innings, so the pressure is here as well.
Well, he's made it tough, on the catcher because of the, I think, looking at that ball, just trying to pick it up. It's just not ideal conditions.
There's Alejandro, and he's going to go out for a hitter, so his day is done. Rafael Landistoi is in the on-deck circle. The lights are on, but just looking at your screen, you can see they have not taken any effect. There are slivers of sunlight scattered in an arc from left field to the right field corner. And there's a crescent of sunlight in straightaway center, but the rest of the field is all in shade. And yet, with such a bright sky, the lights have not taken effect at all. Fimple, followed by Landistoi and then Sachs. Ground ball down to DeJesus. 1 away.
And one more thing too, Vin. I think that's asking the catcher a lot when the guy says, "Well, I got a cut fastball that I can sail into the right-handers. I can sink it. I can do this." It's almost like he throws the ball and says, "Good luck, on your own." I mean, it used to be a fastball was a fastball, and I don't say you can have signals for everything, but when they start making moves on their own, it does make it a bit tough.
Well, I'm sure as we look at Rick Honeycutt, the left-hander throwing in the Dodger bullpen. 4 runs, 4 hits for the Phils, including a home run by Gary Matthews. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers, including a double by Baker and a 2-run home run by Marshall. And here is Landistoi, a switch hitter. A chopper to the right side. Nice play by Joe Morgan to get him.
And with that little motorman's glove that he wears, he made quite a play on that ball. Ball gets out there in a hurry on this artificial surface, and little Joe is there. He gets it on that little short hop, and once he had it, easy out.
5 gold gloves to little Joe in his career. Here's proof of the reason why.
Covered a lot of ground.
So with 2 down in the 5th inning, Steve Sachs will be the batter, followed by Greg Brock. Phillies 4, Dodgers 2, top of the 5th. Charlie Hudson. And Bob Welch relieved in the 2nd inning. 4-1. So it's been Welch, then Pena, who was rushed into the breach, and it will be Honeycutt. And Hudson trying to do it himself. 2-0, the count is Sachs. Somebody loves us under an assumed name. That was some banner. 2-0. Ball 3. And Charlie Hudson struggling with Sachs. Charlie touched up for a single by Baker and then a 2-out home run by Marshall. Right. 3-1. Sachs checking with a Malfitano. See whether he's hitting or taking.
In the old days, he'd be taken, but who knows?
All bets are off. But with Brock's power on deck, that might be a factor considered indeed by Lasorda.
He'd take for me if I were managing.
3-1. there's ball 4. So they get a break. And Greg Brock will be coming up. Brock fouled out. Remember when Mike Schmidt leaned into the stands to make a fine play? And hit the ball hard in the 3rd inning, but lined out to Joe LaFay. So Brock is 0 for 2. For Hudson, that's the first pass, first walk he has given up.
Sachs is over talking to Mota. I just wonder if he's thinking, hey, I could steal on this guy and all that, but you got to tie and run at the plate. He's liable to take one swing and tie it up for you, and I'm sure that's what Mota is telling him.
Brock with 20 home runs. But they really turned off the faucet on him. He had not hit a home run since September the 7th. Ball 1. The Phillies completely tied up Brock during the regular year. He hit less than 120. But again, you have to remember, there's a kid hitter, there's a kid pitcher.
Diaz is trying to babysit him through it. They're playing Brock to pull the ball. Rose has to hold Sachs at first base, so there's a big gap there. Everything indicates that Sachs will stay there to give the hold to Brock. To maybe give him a ball that he can pull and maybe hit it out of here because they're swung way around.
And Morgan is beyond the skin line, so he's playing a deep second base. He's behind now. He walked Sachs. Remember, he went 3-0, 3-1, and then walked him. And now he is 2-0. So that means he has missed 6 of his last 7 pitches. And Claude Osteen going out with Ron Reed and Willie Hernandez down in the bullpen. The interesting thing about Charlie Hudson, a kid like this has a dramatic effect on a ball club. They expected so much from Hudson. They were able to trade Dick Ruthven to get Willie Hernandez. And then when they got Hernandez, they were able to trade Sid Monge to get Joe LaFay. And all of that is because of Charlie Hudson's youthful prowess, as you see Reed and Hernandez in the pen.
Mechanically, what Osteen looks for is the kick of that left leg, if the back leg, the right leg rather, if he slings it and doesn't bend the knee, he's too far out in front. He's got a point that he watches.
2-0, and Brock could be swinging here. But he looks at his strike. Brock is an extremely selective hitter. He could have had a green light and still didn't want the location. It's not where he wanted to drive it. Sachs goes. Pitch in the dirt. The throw is very high. So, Joe, I think you were right when you said Sachs talked to Mota about can he have permission to steal.
He had to have it because he runs all the time. Here's the motion. Watch that back leg now. If he just swings it without bending the knee, no, he's got it bent, so he did all right on that one. The throw is high. Sachs is in easily. Claude Osteen, I think he's just an outstanding pitching coach because he knows his people very well.
3-1 is popped in the air, foul, and out of play. Off to the left, carrying back into the seats. So it is 3-2 to Brock, 2 out. Sachs at second base. We're in the top of the 5th inning. Philadelphia 4, Dodgers 2. A lot going on at the vet. And this crowd now trying to cheer Hudson out of this spot. No hit. Sachs left at second base. And at the end of 4.5 innings, the Phillies 4 and the Dodgers 2. Overhead shot of the Franklin Institute here in Philadelphia. Franklin Parkway. Magnificent fountain square there. Actually, the circle. Boy, it's a beautiful city.
This is a great sightseeing city. You really... In fact, I saw today in the paper that Dom DeLuise came over here to sightsee, and nobody believed him. He said, well, I had to be here, and I didn't want to fly back to the coast and come back. I just came to sightsee. This is a great area to sightsee.
Oh, and how. And, of course, when you come here, in 1976, we really had the smack of it when we went over to Independence Hall. And you look there and you think, hey, this is where it all began. It's all about right here.
Boy, I tell you, in 76, when they had everything here... You're really glad that your pop took out the papers, I'll tell you that, brother.
Well, here is Rick Honeycutt. He is the 3rd Dodger pitcher, a record of 2-3. Those 2 victories were the 2 excellent games, one better than the other, against Philadelphia. But, of course, I'm sure Lasorda is unhappy that his hand is forced. he had to use Pena and Honeycutt with his ball club behind. He was hoping that Honeycutt would take the place of a Steve Howe. But he can't have his ducks in a row. Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, and Mike Schmidt in the bottom of the 5th inning. Philadelphia 4 and the Dodgers 2. And what we might have lost in numbers at Veterans Stadium certainly made up for by exuberance. Morgan is fly to right, single to right. A bunt, foul, off to the left, 0-1.
I have to almost smile to see Morgan do that, because every year when he would go to spring training, he'd spend a day and a half with Rod Carew to teach him, and then he'd never bunt. But he always had the threat of the bunt.
Well, he had a pretty good look at Honeycutt in Rick's 2 appearances against Philadelphia, especially the game he pitched here. I mean, he did look like $1 million. 0-2 on Joe Morgan with Pete Rose to follow. 4-2 Philadelphia, bottom of the 5th inning. Breaking ball missed, 1-2. There's Rose, and the number 3 hitter in the inning will be Mike Schmidt. High fly ball to center. Landro is there. Kenny waiting, puts it away. We'd like to remind you it's Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. NBC Sports World returns. A scheduled 10-round middleweight bout between undefeated knockout artist John Collins, number 2 ranked Tony Simpson, live from Atlantic City, New Jersey. Plus, the Gold Cup Unlimited hydroplane race from Evansville, Indiana. All coming up when NBC Sports World returns Saturday. John Collins, so serious about that fight, I understand he postponed his wedding. Yeah.
He'll have another fight on his hands.
Ah, yes. A little punting on the school kill. And the pitch to Rose, ball 1. They have some great rowing clubs. No, not punting. 1-0 the count to Rose. Ball 2.
I believe just the guys in the truck that didn't know.
That's right. Is grounded to third, single to right, 1 for 2. 4-2 Philadelphia, bottom of the 5th inning, bases empty. High chopper, going to be a tough play. Guerrero will let Russell wait for the bounce, and that's the end of it.
How do you play that ball? It's a base hit for Rose, and you talk about a guy taking off. He saw base hit. He comes out with enthusiasm. Watch him hustle down there. Remember Jim Murray talking about lots of ball players have a little boy in them, and they won't let him out. Pete Rose lets his out, I'll tell you. Look at this. That ball just bounces right over Russell's head.
Rose has a closet full, a collection of base hits in his career, and now he has 2 hits today. He's had 1,158 multiple hit games in his career. I mean, there's nobody close. They're remarkable stats. Multiple hit game. Schmidt is fly to right, fly to center, 0 for 2. Ball 1, sinker down and away. Rick Honeycutt out of Tennessee, out of the University of Tennessee. Mike Schmidt, 1 ball and no strikes to count. 2. Fastball just seemed to run off the corner.
Here's when you're in trouble, though. Schmidt is just taking a look at Bristol, and Bristol looks at him as if to say, what are you looking at me for? You're hitting fourth, you're getting paid all that money, hit it.
2 balls and no strikes to count. The all-time home run hitter in Philadelphia history, Mike Schmidt. It to center. Landro started back, comes up, and short hops it and knees it into left field. Rose going to third and will hold. Into second base goes Schmidt. Landro thought the ball first the ball was hit harder than it was. He leaned back, then tried to catch up to it.
And then he was afraid it would bounce over him. He had just seen what happened to Russell, hit his knee, and very alertly, he finally picks it up and fires it into third. There's a different angle. He really didn't know where it went, saw it in the air, and away he goes, and he has a little trouble picking it up.
So with runners at second and third, and one out, Sixto Lezcano is now going to bat for Joe LeFay with first base open. And Gary Matthews on deck. And, of course, the chances are the Dodgers are going to put Lezcano on. We'll see. It's a double for Mike Schmidt all the way. There's Joe Beckwith in the Dodger bullpen.
You know, when we came out here, Vin, and we talked to Pete Rose about it, that's the first thing he talked about was this artificial surface, and you've really seen it come into play. As Lasorda comes out, he may make a change of his own right here with Lezcano in there. It's not only that you play back, you're so leery of the bounces, and you're so afraid it's going to bounce over your head that you really, you're shooting it with a scared stick. You're like just laying back. That's the best way you can put it.
So Honeycutt has to feel very unlucky. Rose kills a couple of worms in front of home plate, and that's a base hit. And then Schmidt's fly ball to center, slightly misplayed by Landreau, goes for a double. And in the box score, of course, the old story, they all look like line drives. So Honeycutt gives up 2 hits. And with runners at second and third, Lasorda talking to plate umpire John McSherry. With Lezcano and Matthews back-to-back right-hand batters, you just heard him say Beckwith. So Joe Beckwith will be called in, and Honeycutt, with tough luck, goes trotting out.
Those are some of the great conversations on a mound when a manager is trying to buy some time. I mean, I've literally heard managers say to the umpire, well, what would you do? You get paid for that. They're just buying time. But he's made his change. Beckwith is coming in.
It is written in the cards for the Los Angeles Dodgers. The cards read this way. One is injured, one was wild, and the other unlucky. And, of course, the primary character in this little drama today is Bob Welch. Welch had to come out with the slight bursitis that he has in his hip. The game crumbled and began to fall apart because of Pena's wildness. And then Honeycutt is unlucky, and here is Joe Beckwith to pick up for him.
He's been the long man for the Dodgers, and it's going to be his job to try to hold him.
4 runs, 6 hits for Philadelphia. The Phils, after leading 3-0, saw the Dodgers come back 3-2. Gary Matthews hit the big home run, as you see Phil Fanatic. That gave Philadelphia the momentum again, leading 4-2. And now here in the 5th inning, the Dodger infield has to play up. And instead of leaving Honeycutt in, they bring in Beckwith to pitch to Lezcano with first base open. Sixto is 1 for 7. And look at that, boxed by Pimple. So Jack is having his problems behind the plate, 1-0.
Well, when you have a day like that, those bench jockeys really give it to you, and the pet line always is, are you using that D and M model, which is drop and moan?
Drop and moan. 1 ball and no strikes. Ball 2. At second base, Mike Schmidt. At third, Pete Rose. 1 out. 5th inning, 4-2 Philadelphia. Bill's trying to break it open here. Right. Slider up that just did catch a corner of the strike zone. 2-1 to Sixto Lezcano. Lezcano batting for LeFay. Speed, and boy, you could see Sixto's head jerk back. He swung so hard.
He was looking for downtown.
Well, sort of pacing on a burning bridge right about now. 2-2, the count to Lezcano. Got it. So Sixto strikes out. So much for all that strategy. And the batter now will be Gary Matthews. Gary Matthews. first base open. Matthews is followed by a left-hand hitter, Greg Gross. So Beckwith will go head-to-head with Gary. Matthews walked and scored in the second inning. Took third on a wild pitch and came home on a fast ball. And then in the fourth inning, had that key home run to get the momentum back. Time called for a moment.
They're not sure the outs is what's happening. Scoreboard was wrong, and it's 2 outs, and all the infielders want to make sure.
Especially Guerrero.
Looking at her husband.
This is Gary Matthews, huh?
Has to be, I guess.
So second and third. Ball one. Matthews was the #1 hitter for Philadelphia against Dodger pitching during the regular year. Hitting .342, and he's .333 in the league championship series against the Dodgers with 2 home runs. And he hammers it to right center, and that's going to be in there, and he'll get 2 runs home. And it is 6-2 Philadelphia.
Watching the play, and his reaction is always another run. Look at him. He wanted to go through and go over his head.
Fouled away by Greg Rose. Gary Matthews has come up with 2 dandies for the Phils. His home run in the 4th inning when Philadelphia was threatened, and now a base hit to break it open in the 5th inning. So with second and third, they got away with it by striking out Lescano. But with Matthews being followed by a left-hand hitter, they pitched to him, and he got the key hit.
And I'm sure Lasorda will be second-guessed, but I'm going to go on record right now that I think if I had Beckwith out there, I'd rather have him pitching to Matthews than I would to Gross, because Matthews is a free swinger. Gross is one of those hunt and peck guys. You're a tough guy to strike out. He'll get the bat on the ball. Matthews,
a moment ago, they had a quick shot of Lasorda. That's popped in the air, foul, and out of play. And Lasorda was furious and said that blankety-blank pitch. So apparently the pitch that Beckwith made to Matthews is what really ticked Tommy off.
It was up. You can't pitch him. He's a dead high fastball hitter. That's the scouting report. Even the 2 guys that worked for Custer knew that.
Well, that's what he got. A high fastball. And it is 6-2 Philadelphia in the 5th inning. And Lasorda fit to be tied. And Matthews goes on a pitch out. Pimple high. He's safe.
Jack Pimple had to pitch out, but he was very deliberate in getting rid of the ball, and Matthews just a straight steal. You see him looking, and there it goes right there. The throw was high, but he was very deliberate in his delivery, and Matthews helped watch him now. He takes a little bit of time. High throw, and Matthews is safe.
And, of course, you have to be reminded that Jack Pimple is playing with a hairline fracture of the right hand. His ring finger and his little finger taped together. Look at all the bandage around his hand, and you wonder why he's deliberate. It takes him that long just to grip the ball.
That's right. I mean, he's playing with the bad hand. He's got to make sure he gets a good grip on it, and then that's why he makes the high throw, and that's why he is deliberate. You say, why isn't Yeager playing? That I can't answer.
No bat. 6-2 Philadelphia. Oh, what a location. And Gross was giving, looking inside, and the pitch was outside, but the strikeout came too late. And at the end of 5 innings, the Philadelphia Phillies getting a standing ovation from this enthusiastic crowd at the vet. The Phillies 6 and the Dodgers 2. Gary Matthews, a big man in Philadelphia. He has 2 hits, including a home run, 3 RBIs, has scored twice and stolen a base.
And that's a man that Tom Seaver in the very first game said if there's going to be a a big definite factor, the guy who might emerge, it would be Gary Matthews, and he certainly has done that.
Meanwhile, Philly Fanatic putting on a show with an aide in front of the Dodger dugout. Needless to say, spirits are high in Philadelphia. The Phillies led 3-0. The Dodgers came back with 2. And now Philadelphia has broken it open 6-2. And it's Baker, Guerrero, and Landreau in the 6th inning. Right. Neither manager would commit himself about tomorrow's pitcher. But the Dodgers now are running out of options. Little foul off first. Rose trying to run it down, but it's in the seats. You would guess that Jerry Royce, who pitched so well but lost to Steve Carlton, would just about have to be the Dodgers pitcher tomorrow. Wouldn't you say, Joe?
He's got to start Royce and use everybody that he can, including Al Campanis if he has to, because that's it.
And he can't come back with Valenzuela. He made too many pitches. We would have to save him if there be a Sunday. High fly ball to straightaway center. Greg Gross is there. One away. By the way, Sixto Lezcano, who batted for Joe LeFay, stayed in the game in right field. So the outfield is Matthews, Gross, and Lezcano. One down, and Pedro Guerrero, the batter. Guerrero struck out and flied to left, 0 for 2. What's important is he struck out with a runner at second. Fouled away. And then when Hudson made that big off-speed pitch, he just hit under it and flied to left. But having been given a reprieve, Charlie made another off-speed pitch to Marshall, and Marshall hit it into the Dodger bullpen. That's really the only noise the Dodgers have made today in the 4th inning. So Hudson pitching it dandy. 0-2. 6 runs, 7 hits for Philadelphia. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers. To beat the Dodgers. 5 of his 8 victories this year were against Eastern rivals Pittsburgh and Montreal. So he saved his best to beat the teams they had to beat, Pittsburgh and Montreal.
Paul Owens was talking about the gem that he pitched against Montreal when he beat Rogers.
Just look at the guy smile. Wait. That's it. No.
Look at me. I didn't call for that shot. 0-2 the count to Pedro Guerrero. So 5 strikeouts, and with 2 down in the 6th inning, here's Kenny Landreau. Landreau lined out, fouled out. Had trouble with Mike Schmidt's ball in the 5th inning, and it went for a double. And, of course, that turned out to be a 2-run inning, and a big inning indeed. Philadelphia scored in every inning but the first. Of course, the first inning, Bob Welsh was pitching. 0-1 the count.
Got a 4-run lead, and he smells it like a real thoroughbred, and he's coming down the stretch hard.
Ground foul, out of play. For Hudson, his only victory after August 8th was a big one. It was a complete game 4-hitter in Montreal on the 22nd of September. That completed the Phil's second doubleheader sweep of the Expos in 8 days. Hudson's win gave the Phillies a season-high 3-game lead with 10 days to go, and of course they were never headed. So even though he has a so-so record of 8-8, he really made some sizable contributions.
That he did. He pitched really tough baseball.
There's a foul ball off third, out of play. Western Division team that Charlie Hudson beat this year was Houston in back-to-back starts. In 10 starts against Western teams, he was 2-5. But today he has been staked to a 6-2 lead, and almost everybody cares, but not him. You talk about sleeping the sleep of the good child. There's a case in point. 1-2. 2-2. And then, of course, hope burns eternal even in the youngest heart. Somehow, some way, somewhere, I'm going to get me a ball. To Landro. A one-hopper bang to DeJesus. High throw. He's off the bag.
He had to back up on the ball, DeJesus did, and having to do that, he knew he had to get extra on the throw and just made a high throw. Here's the throw, and Pete up, and Landro just does beat him. Good call by Lee Wire. Here's the other angle on it. Looks like he had plenty of time. Just got it high.
If you're wondering about Rose, he's 5'11". It's just that he is so stocky. He's at 203 pounds. You might not think he's that tall. All right, here's Marshall. Struck out and homered. An error charged to DeJesus. Fouled away. 1-1. You remember in the 4th inning, after Hudson got away with the off-speed pitch to Guerrero, Marshall burned him. It is 6-2 Philadelphia, top of the 6th. And the Phillies are keeping an eye on Charlie Hudson. They have their bullpen active again. Ron Reed been throwing down there. Fouled away. Diaz got a little of that.
You know, I think we'd be remiss if we wouldn't mention it. The umpires. Usually the greatest praise they can get is silence. There hasn't been many beefs, and that comes to mind when Wire just made that call. It was a tough call, yet it was so automatic for him.
Right. 0-2 to Mike Marshall. Fouled away.
Landro could have walked to second base. Hudson wasn't even paying attention as we look at the Phillies with Paul Owens, Bobby Wine on the far right of your screen.
Bobby Wine had a club in Venezuela, Zulia, and Charlie Hudson pitched for him. So I think Wine has had a lot to do with bringing Hudson along.
Wine's got a lot to do about a lot of these fellas.
Yeah, he's a solid baseball man. 0-2, Landro goes, and Marshall is struck out. 6 strikeouts for Charlie Hudson. No runs, no hits, an error, and a man left. And at the end of 5.5 innings, the Phillies 6 and the Dodgers 2. Joe Beckwith will be facing a trio here in the bottom of the 6th. Bo Diaz, Ivan DeJesus, and Charlie Hudson. 6 runs, 7 hits, and 1 error for Philadelphia. 2 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for the Dodgers. There, of course, in the press release, today's starting lineup for Philadelphia. And here is Diaz. Bo has walked and grounded to third, 0 for 1. Beckwith is the 4th Dodger pitcher. Welsh, Pena, Honeycutt, and Beckwith. So first a breaking ball and a low fastball, and he has to count his way 0-2. You have a feeling, however, that the momentum and that the entire situation is very much in the hands of Philadelphia. It's as if the Dodgers don't have much to say about it as Diaz strikes out. One reason, the fact that Charlie Hudson, outside of the home run by Marshall, has not been in any real trouble all day. He has struck out a half a dozen, and the Phils, meanwhile, have piled up a 4-run lead behind him. DeJesus grounded to third, single to left. He's 1 for 2. Ball 1. Welsh went an inning and a third and had to come out, and he is the pitcher of record. Then Pena 2 2/3, Honeycutt a third of an inning, and Beckwith. And each of the preceding Dodger pitchers have been charged with 2 runs. Welsh, Pena, and Honeycutt. And the big man has to be Gary Matthews, with a walk, a home run, and a 2-run single.
Jerry Crawford, the third base umpire, picked up the foul ball and didn't throw it in the stands, and he heard about it.
1 ball and 1 strike. The count to DeJesus. Foul tipped that fastball. Fimple holding on to it. 1-2.
Tell you that Beckwith looks like he's got real good stuff today.
Is a very easy delivery. Of course, he's a fellow who fought his way back from nowhere. He's just thankful to be pitching. He suffered a strange injury pitching in spring training. His head snapped like whiplash, and he had a detached retina, and it looked like he was finished. And then he was able to bide his time, take the proper medication, do what they told him to do. The eye eventually.
That's Yvette DeJesus.
That's nice, Joe.
Well, they told me.
I know that. I know.
They gave me the name. I don't know her. I don't know the lady.
There's an interesting story in ophthalmology that just went down the drain. 2-2. The count to DeJesus. 1 out in the 6th inning. 6-2 Philadelphia. Popped in the air and angling back is Brock with Sachs behind him, and it'll be Brock. So 2 down in the 6th inning. Joe, I'll tell you after, okay?
Okay, I want to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, I'll tell it to you on the way back to the hotel.
All right.
So Charlie Hudson getting an ovation, and well-deserved. With a half a dozen strikeouts outside of that 1 pitch to Mike Marshall. He has thoroughly tied the Dodgers up. Phillies 6, Dodgers 2, bottom of the 6th inning. Ball 1.
I asked Hudson, what kind of a hitter, how would you describe yourself? He said, unpredictable.
That's as good a word as any. 1-1 for Charlie. Hudson struck out in the 2nd inning and struck out in the 4th. I don't know. He's starting to look predictable. 1-2.
Because of a curveball, that's unfair.
No, I gave him Powder River, and he lifted a fly ball to Landro. Okay, they're gone in the 6th. And at the end of 6, the Phillies 6 runs, 7 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. 7th inning coming up, and we'll be right back after these messages from your local station. It is 6-2 Philadelphia as we go to the 7th inning, and a magnificent panoramic view of the city indeed. It'll be Bill Russell followed by Jack Pimple, and then we'll see about Joe Beckwith's spot, and that's foul back, 0-1. Russell grounded out twice. He's 0 for 2. Russell with 3 hits in the series. Phillies scored twice in the 2nd and once in the 3rd. The Dodgers counted with 2 in the 4th, but it has been all Philadelphia since, with 1 in the 4th and 2 more in the 5th to take a commanding 6-2 lead. 2-1. Shallow left. DeJesus out. Matthews coming. It will be Matthews. One away on a fly ball to left, and the batter Jack Pimple. For the moment, no one in the on-deck circle. Pimple struck out and grounded to short. Jack with 1 hit in the series. Thomas will come out on deck to bat for Joe Beckwith. Right. bullpen. And Larry Anderson begins to heat up in the Philadelphia pen, just in case. Got it. That's 7 strikeouts for Charlie Hudson. Boy, he's tearing them up.
What do you think happened to that slow curveball that he threw to Marshall?
Yeah, that's history, all right. Charlie Hudson putting on a great show. With his 7 strikeouts, his high was 9 in July when he had a 3-hitter against Houston. So he is very much on the beam, and here is Darrell Thomas, the second Dodger pinch hitter. Remember, Landis-Stoy batted for Pena. Darrell has 2 hits in the championship series.
When you watch Hudson throw like he's throwing now, that's why when he throws a lollipop like he did to Guerrero and to Marshall, Morgan comes in and talks to him and says, if you're going to get beat with this stuff.
1-1 to count. And of course, with the lighting conditions the way they are, about 10 minutes of 6 local time in Philadelphia, the lights have not taken effect. And Hudson, as the modern day player says, is bringing it. 2-1 to count to Darrell Thomas. The Dodgers do not have a hit since Marshall's 2-run home run in the 4th. The Hudson very much in command. The Dodgers have only had a runner on a walk and on an error since the home run. All 3.
Thomas taking a good look at Amalfitano, but with the score being what it is, you would think he would be taking, but the guy that wrote that book, he can forget about it. There's Joey.
And on deck, of course, the leadoff man, Steve Sachs. 3-1. Philadelphia, the scene of Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. The Phillies winning the first game 1-0. The Dodgers coming back to win the second game 4-1. And Philadelphia leading today 6-2 in the 7th inning. Tonight, Game 3 of the American League Championship between Chicago and Baltimore. And they are even at 1 game apiece. And that'll start at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Interestingly enough, if there be a pattern for Paul Owens to take comfort in, the team that has scored first in all previous games, not only of this playoff series, but also the Baltimore White Sox series, the team that has scored first has won. Drive to right, Marshall coming up. He's there.
Then I'm sure he takes comfort in that. But I bet he takes more comfort in the fact that he's got that 4-run lead and he's got Reed and Holland in that bullpen.
And how? But it is interesting that each team in the championship series front runners, they get a lead and they hold on to it. Zachary with good numbers, 6-1. Be pitching now to Pete Rose. Rose grounded to third, single to right, and then beat one down in front of the plate, took that big high bounce to shortstop, and he had himself a single. That was the most important base hit. Mike Schmidt then hit the drive. Landreau unsure of it and played for a double. And then with 2 out in the inning, Gary Matthews singled home 2 runs, and that changed a 4-2 game to a wide open 6-2 game. 2-0. Rose followed by Schmidt. And John McSherry saying, I don't need to hear that, as he points over to the Dodger dugout.
Somebody on the Dodger bench trying to get that ball club away, and McSherry really letting them have it.
2-0 to Rose. Remember, of course, the Dodgers no doubt felt that Derek Thomas should have walked on the 2-3-2 pitch, then struck out. Line to center, base hit for Rose.
I remember Rose saying in Los Angeles, he said, I'm going to be playing in these playoffs, and I'm going to show a lot of people that I can still play.
Well, he can play all right. He is 3 for 4 today after grounding out in the first inning. He has 3 consecutive hits, and here's Mike Schmidt. Fly to right, fly to center, and then hit the ball to center that went for a double in the 5th inning. Landro started back, then tried to come up, then tried to short hop it, and wound up kneeing the ball over into left field. In the dirt. Blocked by Pitbull. It's still behind him. I don't think exactly where it was.
No, he didn't. And I say that and kind of snicker because everybody in the ballpark knows it except you, and you keep waiting for somebody to help you. Now, he thinks he can just pick it up. He checks the runner. Now, he thought he knew where the ball was, and he says, where is it? Oh, there it is. Now, there's all these people, they see it, but you as a catcher, you don't know where it is.
You would think Zachary would come down and try to help him out.
Somebody, the bench, they're on the umpire, help your catcher.
1-0 the count. Ball 2.
You know, Ben, I don't have to tell you, and I'm sure same way with that Pete Rose. I'm a big fan of his. He would help a ball club. He just showed up for the team picture.
That's right. Yeah, he wouldn't allow any dozing. Pete 3 for 4 today. Check it first. No swing, says Lee Wire.
One of those calls that the umpire said, okay, if you guys are going to ask the appeal play, we'll go along with it. But once the man at first or third makes it, we don't want to hear any arguments. And that's why you don't see anybody ever question that.
That's right, you never do. 3-0 the count of Mike Schmidt. Ball 4. So with 1 out, a single to Rose, a walk to Mike Schmidt. And the batter will be Sixto Lezcano.
He's got one man out looking for the ground ball, and one of Zachary's best pitches is that little overhand curveball that he drops right on the outside corner looking for the ground ball.
Remember, Lezcano came in to hit for LaFay in the 5th inning and struck out against Beckwith.
And there it was.
He missed ball 1.
And Zachary is saying something to McSherry, and McSherry's had it.
That was a strike, he muttered from under his mustache. It's been Welch, Pena, Honeycutt, Beckwith, and Zachary. 1-0, the count to Lezcano.
There's too much talking going on for Lezcano. He backs off. A lot of those hitters feel that way.
Schmidt at first, Rose at second, 1 away. Dodger bullpen, Oral Hershiser begins to loosen up. There he is. Remember, he was the youngster who caught the home run by Marshall when the Dodgers were in the game. Right. 2-1. Pitch away from loading him up, and on deck is the fella having the big day, Gary Matthews. Matthews walked and scored in the 2nd, homered in the 4th, and it was a very important home run. It was 3-2 Philadelphia, and he lifted their spirits to make it 4-2, and then singled in 2 runs in the 5th inning. So 2 on, 1 out. Rose and Schmidt.
situation now where Fimple goes out there, and one of the things he's saying, I'm sure, is, look, you pitch to the hitter. I don't think they're running. Get the hitter with Matthews coming up next. Now, I'd go one more step and get a sign with either Sachs or Russell to get the trailer if Rose has got too big a lead, to be alert for it. I don't think they'd be running, but you can't assume that. You got to assume they are going.
All right, let's see what they do. Rose from second, Schmidt from first. 3-2 with one out. The runners do not go, and it's fouled away.
You wouldn't think they'd be going with Matthews coming up next, and Lezcano strikes out that much. You can't ever say they're not going for sure, and then you get caught with your finger in your ear.
3-2, one out in the bottom of the seventh. Philadelphia 6, Dodgers 2. The runners do not go, and the ball is lifted to shallow left. Coming up for it is Baker. So the runners hold. So Lezcano a fly ball to left. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
Omaha, Channel 3, KMTV.
Tommy Lasorda listening and looking at this crowd and the ovation for Gary Matthews. Matthews walked, homered, singled, knocked in 3 runs, hitting .400 in the series, fouled away. He is 4 for 10 with 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and for good measure has a walk and a stolen base. So Gary Matthews standing tall in left field for the Phils, and on deck, Greg Gross. 2 on, 2 out in the 7th. 1-1. If you're not keeping score, in the 8th inning, Sachs, Brock, and Baker coming up. Ground ball to the hole. He's got another base hit. Here comes Rose. Here's Baker's throw to the plate. He scored. Holding at second is Mike Schmidt.
The base hit, and you see Matthews take his cap off, and they really had to get it out of the way before Baker made this throw. It looked like there might be a play, but the short hop really took Fimple out of the play. Pete digging hard. Looks like the throw's going to beat him, but the short hop, Fimple had to make sure he caught the ball. It was not a good throw.
It's one of those times, too, I think if Rose had slid, they might have gotten him. But he was able to avoid that short hop tag by Fimple. 7-2 Philadelphia. 4 RBIs for Gary Matthews. He has 2 singles, a walk, a home run, and he's 5 for 11 in the series. Greg Gross hits a drive to Landreau, and that will be that. But as we consider the choice for most valuable player, standing very high on the list has to be the left fielder, Gary Matthews. 1 run, 2 hits, 2 left. And at the end of 7, Phillies 7, Dodgers 2.
Gary Matthews, this was a little bit earlier. They made him come out.
So Gary taking the curtain call, this crowd chanting, beat L.A., beat L.A., and you can understand why. The Dodgers and the Phils met in the divisional playoffs in 1977 and in 1978. Each time the Dodgers beat the Phils 3-1, thoroughly frustrating the Philadelphia effort. So now Philadelphia leading 7-2 in this pivotal 3rd game. There's ball 1 to Sachs. And of course during the regular year, the Dodgers won 11 out of 12 from Philadelphia and winning 5 out of 6 here. So when they chant beat L.A., I mean the chant comes from the heart that's been kicked around. 1-1 to Steve Sachs. Sachs flied to right, flied to center, walked and stole a base in the 5th inning. Ground ball to short. DeJesus. DeJesus handling Sachs' ball, and the batter is Greg Brock. Brock fouled out in the first inning. Good play by Mike Schmidt. Lined out to right. And with Sachs at second and 2 out in the 5th inning, struck out. Brock is still looking for his first hit in the series. He is 0 for 8. You wonder, will Lasorda continue with his hunch? He has just kept saying day after day when they were considering Monday, I've got a hunch about this kid that he's going to do something. But he's running out of time as well as hunches.
He's trying to make a ball player. It may cost him a couple games.
2-1.
I think it was Steve Boros who said it best. He said sometimes good strategy is bad psychology. And this may be the case. He's trying to make a player, and he's staying with him, staying with him.
2-1 to Greg Brock. Foul ball right by Manny Mota. 2-2.
Hudson has made 103 pitches, and here we are with 1 out in the 8th.
2-2 to Greg. Popped in the air, foul, and out of play. For the Dodgers, the day began when their number 1 pitcher, Bob Welch, retired 4 in a row, and then had the hip problem that had flared up twice in 2 of his last 3 starts, and he had to leave. And when he left, the ball game unraveled for Pena, Honeycutt, Beckwith, and Zachary. High pop foul, out of play. And meanwhile, Charlie Hudson was just being tested when it got to 3-2. And Gary Matthews took the game in hand. It was 3-2 when Matthews homered to make it 4-2, when Matthews singled to make it 6-2, and when Matthews singled to make it 7-2. Down goes Brock. That's 9 strikeouts for Charlie Hudson, equaling his high. Hudson struck out 9 against Houston on the 20th of July.
And he makes a good pitch here. You can see why he gets him. Ties him up inside with the breaking ball. Even if he had hit it, even with the swing that he had, he would not have been able to drive that ball.
So a magnificent performance by 24-year-old Charles Hudson out of Ennis, Texas. High pop fly, and it will be Schmidt. And Charles Hudson has now retired 7 in a row. The Dodgers have not had a hit since the 4th inning. And at the end of 7½, the Phils 7 and the Dodgers 2. Bottom of the 8th inning, the Phillies 7 runs, 9 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. And Bo Diaz at bounce at a third. Backhanded by Guerrero, who gets him. 1 away. 1 down. Good play by Guerrero, and DeJesus coming up. Again, as we work our way to the final outs, and when the Dodgers come up in the 9th inning, they'll have Guerrero, Landro, and Marshall. They'll have a selection, in our estimation, of the most valuable player in the game. I think you might agree with us as the story has unfolded. Pat Zachary, the 5th Dodger pitcher, trying to get DeJesus, who grounded to third, singled, and fouled out. And hits it to right, but Marshall is there. 2 down. And Charles Hudson will be getting an ovation. And here he comes. 9 strikeouts. He's retired 7 in a row, and he gets a standing ovation. Message board, they flashed our secret weapon. Boy, it's no secret now. He struck out twice and flied to center. Each time he's had 2 strikes, but in the 6th inning against Beckwith, he had a fly ball to center. 1-2. 2 out, 8th inning. Phil 7, Dodgers 2. Guerrero, Landro, Marshall due up in the 9th. And who's going to pitch for the Dodgers tomorrow? Chances are Jerry Royce. That's all for Charles Hudson, but he can do no wrong. The Phillies out in order in the 8th, and at the end of 8, the Phillies 7 runs, 9 hits. The Dodgers 2 runs, 4 hits. Guerrero, Landro, and Marshall with their feet in the door. To Charles Hudson, 24 years old, out of Ennis, Texas. Look at those numbers, Joe.
78 strikes, only 30 balls, and I think the story, in addition to that, is the last base hit the Dodgers had was on that slow curveball he threw to Marshall. Since then, he has struck out 6, and he has just been rearing back, throwing strikes, and getting the job done.
So Hudson will be pitching to Pedro Guerrero, followed by Kenny Landro and Mike Marshall. And the Phillies 3 outs away from going 2-1 up against the Dodgers. Al Holland and Willie Hernandez in the Philadelphia bullpen. Rose, Morgan, DeJesus, and Schmidt on the infield. Gross in left, Denier in center, Lescano in right. Guerrero's had just 1 hit in the series, hitting .125, and he's 0 for 3 today. That 1 hit was the triple for 2 runs that helped give the Dodgers a victory. 1-1. 9 strikeouts for Charles Hudson. Boy, he really had an up and down year. 2-3 in 10 starts, then 5 straight wins, then 1-5 in his last 11 starts. Put it all together, he wound up 8-8. But Paul Owens sent him out there to do a big job against Pittsburgh and Montreal, and he succeeded. And he sent him back out to do a big job today, and he's been right on the money. The Dodgers have not been heard from since a 2-run home run by Mike Marshall in the 4th inning. And we're now in the 9th. 1-2. Fouled away. Charles Hudson has pitched a great game. But, Joe, it's time for MVP selection.
Well, I think what helped him considerably in pitching that great game was Gary Matthews' home run that made it 4-2 in his inning. My vote's for Matthews.
Okay. Beat L.A. is the champ. Ground ball to third. Mike Schmidt over to Pedro. 1 down. So where it looked like Charles Hudson might crack when it got to 3-2 in the 4th inning, it was Gary Matthews who literally picked him up, the team up, and the city of Philadelphia. And so today's NBC Miller Highlight Player of the Game is no longer in the game. It's Gary Matthews. And Miller High Life is happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Gary Matthews to the Special Olympics. Strikes to count to Kenny Landro. Lined out to center, fouled out, and was aboard on an error. Hit it on the hands and popped it in the air to Rose. That's 9 in a row retired by Charles Hudson.
There was no way that Pete Rose would not make this play. He knew exactly where he was. He kind of stumbles here, but he's got that ball in his glove.
And this crowd is going wild now as Mike Marshall gets in. 9 straight retired by Charles Hudson. Has not allowed a hit since the 4th inning, and he has struck out 9. Ball 1. White Sox in Baltimore tonight at 8. Fouled away. 1-1. And tomorrow night here at Veterans Stadium, the Dodgers trying to stay alive, and Philadelphia trying to go to the World Series. the crowd. That dour look on the face of Lasorda would tell it all. 3-1. The Phillies bench, Darren Johnson, Paul Owens, Claude Osteen, Bobby Wine, Dave Briscoe. Tonight at 8, the White Sox and the Orioles from Chicago. Out and away. Boy, listen to this crowd. Everybody out. Walks to delay the moment, and Bill Russell will be the batter. The Dodger base runners, since Marshall homered in the 4th, have been Sachs, who walked in the 5th, Landreau aboard on an error in the 6th, and the 2-out walk to Marshall in the 9th. And that sums up the feeling here. They are indeed psyched. Monday is out on deck to bat for Jack Pimple, if there be an at-bat left. One and one.
There's your home field advantage, what you're listening to.
Yeah, what the Dodgers call the 10th man. High fly ball to left field. Gross is there. That's it. Stand there and blow bubbles, because the day belongs to Charles Hudson and to the Philadelphia Phillies, who defeated the Dodgers 7-2.